My daughter said I had stopped paying her bills. She said it across a desk at Mesa Community Credit Union. Her husband sat beside her with both hands folded over his stomach. The branch manager stopped writing and looked at me. "Dad, I'm not trying to embarrass you," Michelle said, "but you changed everything without warning. I changed one thing. You stopped helping us." Greg leaned forward. "Let's not argue about wording. The wording was the whole reason we were there." Michelle wouldn't look at me. She kept smoothing the corner of a yellow deposit slip. I noticed she had bitten the polish from her right thumbnail. She'd done that since she was young, whenever she knew something wasn't right. The branch manager asked, "Mr. Howell, do you understand what your daughter is requesting?" "I understand exactly what she's requesting." Greg let out a breath through his nose. I could hear the lobby printer behind the counter. Someone was feeding a stack of paper into one tray. Another customer was counting cash at the next desk. Greg said, "We have a material pickup Friday morning. If Charles doesn't release the money, I lose the job." Michelle finally looked at me. "Please, Dad, just pay it like you always do." That last part stayed with me. "My name is Charles Howell. I'm 68 years old." "What city are you listening from?" "I've worked as an electrician around Longmont, Colorado, for most of my adult life. I'm not rich. I've simply worked steadily, saved what I could, and paid my bills before buying anything I didn't need. My wife used to say I could make one pair of work boots last through 3 Colorado winters. She wasn't wrong. Her name was Ellen. She died in 2021. Afterward, I kept her blue ceramic bowl beside the front door. She used to put my keys there because I'd leave them on every flat surface in the house. Even after she was gone, I'd come through the door and drop them in that bowl. The sound helped, just a small clink that said, "I was home." Michelle is our only daughter. She was born in 1986 when I was 28. The first transfer I made for her was into a savings account Ellen and I opened after she was born. It wasn't much, $20 here, $40 there. Later, the amounts got bigger. There was training after high school, then rent during a bad stretch, a medical deductible she couldn't cover, car repairs, utility bills, groceries when her hours were cut. Michelle married Greg Tucker in 2008. I didn't stop helping after that. If anything, the requests became more regular. Greg worked remodeling jobs, kitchens, basements, decks, rental properties. He could be charming when he wanted something. He also had a habit of describing every problem as temporary. "This next check fixes everything," he'd say. The check was always coming next week. Michelle kept his books from their dining room on Juniper Street. She used an old laptop and a plastic file box with crooked labels. Receipts, supplier invoices, fuel, payroll, taxes. At least, that was what she told me she handled. I never asked to see the books. I thought that would be insulting. When Michelle called and said they were short, I transferred money. When she said Greg was waiting on a customer payment, I covered the gap. I told myself that was what fathers did. Ellen was more careful. She'd sit at our kitchen table and ask, "Did Michelle request this? Or did Greg? Does it matter?" It might. She's our daughter. I know who she is, Charlie. Ellen only called me Charlie when she wanted me to slow down. She'd tap one finger against the table. "Help her when she asks. Don't make it so she never has to ask." I understood the difference. I just didn't practice it. After Ellen died, helping Michelle became easier than calling her for no reason. If I sent money, she called to thank me. If I fixed something at their house, she made coffee and sat with me while I worked. I began to associate being needed with being included. I didn't admit that then. In 2024, a hailstorm came through Longmont and beat up half the roofs in their neighborhood. Michelle called me the morning after. "Dad, you should see the backyard. It looks like somebody dumped a truckload of ice." I drove over after finishing a panel replacement. Their gutters were dented. Shingles lay in the grass. Water had come through near the back bedroom window. Greg was already on the roof. He climbed down and showed me pictures on his phone. "Insurance will drag this out," he said. "I can do most of the work myself. I just need materials moving before the next storm." I had maintained a trade account at Front Range Building Supply for years. It was useful for electrical materials, job boxes, fasteners, ladders, and the occasional building repair. The account was mine. I guaranteed it. Anyone else could purchase only if I authorized them. Greg knew that. He stood in their driveway with his phone in one hand and said, "Could you add me long enough to get the house sealed up?" Michelle was beside him, holding a plastic bucket under the damaged gutter. "Just for the repairs," she said. That seemed reasonable. The following morning, I went to Front Range Building Supply. I filled out a one-page authorization at the contractor counter. They issued Greg a charge card connected to my account. The clerk slid it toward me. "You're still responsible for everything charged," she said. "I understand. You can remove an authorized purchaser whenever you want." "I understand that, too." I gave the card to Greg outside. He slipped it into his wallet behind his driver's license. "This saves us," he said. "Use it for the house." Of course. At first, that was what he did. Roofing felt, flashing, fasteners, replacement gutter sections, plywood for the damaged edge near the back room. I saw the invoices and recognized the materials. I'd been at the house. I knew where they went. Then the paperwork became less clear. Some invoices listed general materials without a job address. Others had pickup numbers I didn't recognize. Greg always had an explanation. That bundle was returned. That lumber went against the insurance reimbursement. I picked up for 2 jobs together, but I'll separate it? I accepted those answers because the monthly balances stayed manageable. More than that, I accepted them because Michelle did. She'd sit at my kitchen counter with her laptop and say, "He's got 3 payments coming." I'd ask, "When? Soon? How soon? Dad, please don't start." So, I didn't start. By early 2026, small things began changing around me. The first was a pamphlet. I came home from work and found it on my kitchen table. It was about helping older adults organize household finances. Michelle had let herself in. She had a key for emergencies and used it whenever she thought I might not hear the door. She was standing at the sink rinsing my coffee mug. "What's this?" I asked. She glanced at the pamphlet. "Nothing. They had them at the pharmacy. You brought it here. I thought it might be useful." It had sections about automatic bill payment, trusted contacts, and reducing financial confusion. "I'm not confused. I didn't say you were. Then why leave it on my table?" She turned off the water. "Dad, it's a pamphlet. Throw it away if it bothers you." I did throw it away. A week later, another one appeared. That one was about planning for safer independent living. I called Michelle. "Did you leave this?" "Probably." "Why?" There was a pause. Greg said, "You've been forgetting things." "What things?" "Appointments, mail, small stuff." "I haven't missed an appointment. I'm not accusing you of anything." She was using the same tone she'd used at the credit union. Soft, careful, like I was already upset and she was managing me. "Who told you I was forgetting my mail?" "Dad, I have to go." She hung up before answering. The mail was the second thing. My mailbox stood at the end of the driveway. I checked it when I came home. That had been my routine for years. One Tuesday, it was empty. It was empty again Wednesday. On Thursday afternoon, I saw Michelle's car pulling away as I turned onto my street. When I entered the house, a stack of envelopes sat beside Ellen's blue bowl. Michelle had sorted them into 3 piles: bills, personal, and what she called junk. I called her immediately. "Did you take my mail?" "I brought it inside. You sorted it. You've been leaving it out there." "No, I haven't." Greg noticed the box getting full. Greg doesn't live here. He drives past. Their house on Juniper Street was nowhere along Greg's normal route. I stood beside the front door with the phone against my ear. The top envelope was from Front Range Building Supply. It had already been opened. "Michelle, did you open my supplier statement?" "No, it's open." "Then maybe you opened it and forgot." I looked at the torn edge. Michelle used a letter opener. She always had. The envelope was sliced cleanly across the top. "Did Greg open it?" "I don't know. You brought it into my house. I was trying to help. Don't take my mail again." Her voice changed. "You don't have to talk to me like that. I'm telling you plainly, leave my mail in my box. Fine." She hung up. I stood there longer than I needed to. Then I took the supplier envelope into my workshop. My workshop was attached to the back of the garage. I kept my account folders in a gray metal cabinet beneath the bench. Ellen had labeled them by year in her neat handwriting. I compared the statement with the invoices I had saved. 2 purchase numbers had no matching paper invoice. Together, they were much larger than Greg's usual pickups. I called the contractor counter. A man named Dennis answered. I knew his voice from years of buying conduit and breakers. "Dennis, it's Charles Howell." "Hey, Charles, what can I find for you?" "I'm checking my account. I'm missing 2 invoices." I gave him the purchase numbers. He tapped at a keyboard. "Both were picked up by your authorized buyer." Greg, that's what I have. What did he buy? Dennis read a list. Roofing membrane, shingles, flashing, nails, roof vents, a pallet fee and delivery charge. Where was it delivered? He gave me an address I didn't recognize. It wasn't on Juniper Street. I wrote it on the back of an old work order. Can you print duplicate invoices? Sure. Want them mailed? No. Hold them at the counter. All right, and Dennis? Yeah. From now on, don't give account details to anyone except me. He paused before answering. I can put a note on it. Do that. I hung up and pulled the original account agreement from the cabinet. The authorized purchaser page was clipped behind it. Greg's name appeared below mine. Beside it was the date I had added him after the hailstorm. At the bottom, in plain print, was the line I already knew. The account holder could revoke purchasing privileges at any time. I didn't revoke them that afternoon. Not yet. Instead, I locked the agreement in the cabinet, put the key in my pocket, and drove to the address Dennis had given me. The address was on the east side of town, beyond a row of older ranch houses and a self-storage place. I drove past it once because the house number was partly covered by a roll-off dumpster. When I turned around, I saw fresh roofing bundles stacked in the driveway. The house was empty inside. At least, it looked empty. The front yard was dirt, and every window had blue tape around the edges. A temporary sign leaned against the porch railing. Tucker Remodeling. Greg's phone number was printed below it. I parked across the street and stayed in my truck. 2 men were carrying pieces of drywall through the garage. One of them came outside, took off his gloves, and lit a cigarette. He noticed me looking. You need something? He called. I crossed the street. I'm looking for Greg Tucker. He's not here. Is this his job? The man glanced toward the sign. He's running it. Roof 2? I guess. We've been inside. Do you know who owns the house? No, that was all he knew, or all he wanted to tell me. A few roofing bundles still had Front Range wrapping around them. I recognized the red logo. There was no hail damage anywhere. The old roof had already been stripped, and new black underlayment covered half the back slope. This somebody's home? I asked. Flip, I think. The man dropped his cigarette into an empty soda can. You should call Greg. I will. I walked back to my truck. I had the evidence I could see, but not the part that mattered. Greg could still claim he had ordered those materials separately. He could say the delivery address had been entered incorrectly. I'd heard him explain away cleaner facts than that. My phone rang before I started the engine. It was Michelle. Where are you? She asked. In my truck. That narrows it down. What do you need? She went quiet for a second. Why do you always assume I need something? I looked across the street at Greg's sign. Do you? Our kitchen disposal stopped working. It just hums. Don't keep turning it on. I know. No, you don't. You just told me it hums. She laughed a little. Can you come by before dinner? I can. I made chicken and rice. That was one of Ellen's meals. Michelle made it almost the same way, except she used too much garlic. What time? I asked. 6. I nearly asked her about the house across the street. Then one of the workers pulled the garage door down, covering the stacked materials. I decided I wanted the invoices first. I'll be there. I got home around 4 and changed out of my work shirt. The house felt especially quiet that afternoon. Ellen used to keep the radio on in the kitchen, not loud. Usually an oldies station, just enough sound to follow her from room to room. I turned it on while I washed my hands. A grocery store advertisement was playing. I turned it back off. The disposal call was normal for Michelle. So was the dinner attached to it. There had always been some exchange between us. I fixed things. She fed me. I paid a shortage. She called twice that week instead of once. I had treated that as closeness. At 6, I pulled into their driveway on Juniper Street. Greg's work truck wasn't there. Michelle opened the door before I knocked. You brought the big bag, she said. I didn't know what was wrong. It's probably a spoon. It's never a spoon. She stepped aside. Their kitchen smelled like garlic and canned mushroom soup. The table was already set for 3. Greg's plate had foil over it. He's working late, Michelle said. Where? Some renovation? What renovation? She opened the cabinet under the sink. I don't know, Dad. One of his jobs. You keep his books. I don't memorize every address. The disposal had a washcloth stuffed beneath it. Michelle pointed to a damp spot. It leaked too. I knelt and set my flashlight beside the drain pipe. When did this start? Yesterday. Why didn't Greg look at it? He was tired. I reached under the motor and turned the release with a small wrench. Something scraped inside. I worked it back and forth until the plate moved freely. Michelle stood above me with her arms folded. Is it ruined? No. I pulled the rubber guard aside and reached in with pliers. A metal bottle cap came out. Michelle frowned. I don't buy bottles. Greg does? Well, he doesn't put them down the disposal. I held up the cap. She took it from the pliers and dropped it in the trash. I reset the motor and ran cold water. The disposal came on normally. There, I said. That took you 5 minutes. 6, because you kept talking. She smiled and handed me a dish towel. For that moment, nothing felt wrong. I was in my daughter's kitchen. Dinner was warm. I had fixed a small problem. Then she picked up an envelope from the counter. Your electric bill came. My address was visible through the window. You took my mail again. It was sticking out of the box. Leave it there. Dad, anyone could take it. You took it. Her smile disappeared. I was coming here anyway. That's not the point. What is the point? It's my mail. She placed the envelope on the counter. You're making this into something it isn't. I dried my hands slowly. Was Greg with you? No. Did he ask you to check the box? No. Did he open the supplier statement last week? I already told you I didn't know. You didn't ask him? I forgot. She realized what she'd said and looked away. I didn't point it out. She would have accused me of trapping her. Instead, I took the electric bill and put it inside my tool bag. Michelle pulled the casserole dish from the oven. Can we just eat? We sat across from each other. Greg's chair remained empty. The chicken was dry, but the rice tasted close to Ellen's. Michelle had even added sliced almonds on top. Mom soaked the rice first, I said. I did soak it. She soaked it longer. You can cook next time. I'm only telling you. She took a drink of water. We're a little short this month. There it was. I set down my fork. How short? 600. For what? The house account. What does that mean? Utilities, insurance, just the regular stuff. Greg's working. He hasn't been paid yet. For the renovation? For a few things. Which renovation is he working on? She stared at her plate. Why are you asking me like that? Like what? Like I'm doing something wrong. I asked where your husband is working. And I said, I don't know the address. She pushed rice around with her fork. The checking account is low. The insurance payment comes out tomorrow. Home insurance? Yes. How much is the insurance? That's not the only thing. What else? She sighed. Do you want screenshots? I want to know what I'm paying. You never used to make me list everything. She was right. That bothered me more than if she'd lied. I had trained both of us to treat the request as enough. She named a number. I sent it. Asking questions now felt like changing a rule without warning. I took out my phone. Michelle watched me unlock it. 600? I asked. Yes. I opened my credit union application and made the transfer. Her phone buzzed on the table. Got it, she said. No surprise, no relief, just confirmation. Then she looked up. Thank you, you're welcome. She reached across and touched my wrist. Don't be mad about the mail. I'm not mad. You seem mad. I don't want you taking it. All right, say you won't. She pulled her hand back. I won't. I believed she meant it at that moment. Greg came home while Michelle was wrapping the leftovers. He entered through the garage, talking on his phone. No, Friday is fine, he said. I'll have everything lined up. He saw me and lowered his voice. I'll call you back. His boots left pale dust on the kitchen floor. Charles? Didn't know you were here. Michelle invited me. She get you fed? She did. He opened the refrigerator and looked inside. Michelle pointed to the foil-covered plate. It's on the table. Greg took a beer instead. You fixed the disposal? He asked. Bottle cap. He smiled at Michelle. Told you it was something simple. You didn't look at it, she said. I knew Charles would. He said it as a compliment. He drank from the bottle and leaned against the counter. How's work? I asked. Busy, finally. What are you doing? Full renovation. Good margin if the owner stays out of my way. Where is it? He looked at me over the bottle. East side. That house near the storage place? His face barely changed. If I hadn't spent years watching customers hide mistakes, I might have missed it. What house? He asked. The one with your sign out front. Michelle turned from the sink. You drove by his job? I had an address in the area. What address? Greg asked. I looked at him. For work. He waited. So did I. Then he shrugged. Yeah, that's probably it. Investor bought it cheap. We're taking it down to the studs. Roof too? Eventually, it looked started. The owner has another crew. He said it quickly, then drank again. I knew the materials had been delivered under purchases attached to my account. I still didn't know whether every item had gone to that roof. Greg wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Why all the questions? Conversation? Sounds like an inspection. Michelle closed the leftover container harder than necessary. Can both of you stop? I'm not doing anything, Greg said. Neither was I, at least not yet. I picked up my tool bag. Michelle followed me to the front door. You just got here. I fixed the disposal. We ate. You can stay. For what? The question came out before I could soften it. She looked confused. For coffee. To visit? I waited while she glanced toward the kitchen. Greg had turned on the television. I have an early morning, I said. She hugged me with one arm because I was holding the tool bag. Call me tomorrow. I will. On my way to the truck, I looked back at their porch light. It had a weak flicker that came and went. I'd repaired that fixture twice. The housing was old, and the screws no longer held tightly. I had told Michelle it should be replaced. She always said, next month. I usually bought replacements before next month arrived. At home, I placed my keys in Ellen's bowl. Then I carried the electric bill into the workshop. I checked my phone before putting it on the charger. The transfer to Michelle had cleared. Below it were the recent transfers I could see without opening older statements. Grocery money, a heating repair, their vehicle registration. 2 transfers marked simply household. Each request had sounded temporary when she made it. I sat at the workbench and thought about the $600 I'd just sent. I hadn't seen a bill. I hadn't asked for one until tonight. When Michelle resisted, I paid anyway. Greg had learned that pattern from me. So had she. I opened my call history. Michelle's last call was about the disposal. Before that, she had called about a bank password she couldn't reset. Before that, she needed a ride because Greg had taken her car. Before that, she wanted to know whether I had paid a plumbing invoice. I kept scrolling. There were calls from me she hadn't returned. Most had no voicemail because I hadn't known what to say. I put the phone down. The house was silent again. I opened the drawer where I kept spare checks, old keys, and instruction manuals. Ellen's handwriting was on a yellow note stuck to the inside. Call Michelle Sunday. No reason needed. I remembered when she wrote it. I had been working weekends and said I'd call when things slowed down. Ellen knew I needed reminders for things that couldn't be repaired with tools. I peeled the note loose and set it on the bench. Then I checked the Front Range account online. Greg's name still showed as authorized. Under recent activity, one purchase had a delivery charge attached. The street number matched the speculative house. The item details weren't available online, but the order status was clear. Delivered. That was one small answer. The materials hadn't been sent there by mistake. I printed the activity page and clipped it to the address I'd written down. Then I set an alarm so I could be at Front Range when the contractor counter opened. For the first time in years, I let Michelle's transfer stand, without sending anything extra, and I left the porch light for her to choose. The contractor counter opened at 6:30. I arrived 10 minutes early and waited in the parking lot with a travel mug between my knees. Delivery trucks were already moving behind the building. A forklift carried lumber across the yard, with its warning light flashing. When the doors opened, I went straight to Dennis. He had the duplicate invoices clipped together. "Morning," he said. "You're beating the crowd." I wanted time to look at these. He passed them across the counter. The first invoice was small: fasteners, sealant, and 2 boxes of saw blades. I didn't like seeing saw blades on my account, but the amount wasn't what had brought me there. The second invoice covered 3 pages: roofing membrane, shingles, flashing, vents, nails, delivery, and tax. The total was $8,400. I read it twice. The job address was printed near the top. It matched the house I'd visited. "Who placed this order?" I asked. Dennis turned his monitor toward himself. Greg called it in. "Who approved the delivery?" "He did." "Was my name used?" "You're the account holder, so it's on every ticket." "That's not what I asked." Dennis looked at the screen again. "No. Greg used his purchaser number." "Did anybody call me?" "He's authorized, Charles. We don't call you for each order." I knew that. It was the point of giving him the card. Still, hearing it said plainly made my stomach tighten. "Was this paid?" "It posted to your account, so I owe it." "Yes, even if the materials went to his business job." Dennis rested one hand on the counter. We deliver to the address the authorized buyer gives us. Where he uses the materials is between you and him. That was also something I knew. I had spent my working life reading terms before signing anything. I'd warned customers not to hand keys to contractors without understanding who controlled them. Then I had given Greg purchasing access because my daughter's roof was leaking. I turned to the signature page. Greg's name was printed beneath a quick mark that looked like a bent hook. When was this delivered? Monday morning. Was all of it delivered? Dennis checked. Everything except 2 roof vents. They were picked up yesterday. By Greg? Yes. I took out my phone and photographed each page. Dennis didn't say anything while I did it. Is there other activity that hasn't posted? I asked. Let me see. He typed for a few seconds. There's a pickup order being assembled. For what? Framing lumber, subfloor panels, construction adhesive, hangers. Who ordered it? Greg. When is pickup? Friday morning. He asked to have it staged for the contractor breakfast. Front Range held a breakfast on Friday mornings. Coffee, breakfast burritos, supplier demonstrations, and enough contractors standing around to turn every delay into public conversation. Has that order hit my account? Not yet. It charges when he picks it up. Can he change it before then? If the materials are still available, can he add more? He's authorized. I folded the invoice along its original crease. Dennis lowered his voice. Do you want me to cancel the pickup? No. He looked surprised. Do you want the account locked? Not this morning. Then what do you want me to do? Nothing different. Keep the note that account details come only to me. All right? If Greg asks whether I came in, don't lie. I wouldn't. But don't call him either. Dennis nodded. I slipped the invoices into my tool bag. The action I'd taken had worked. I had the address, the amount, the delivery record, and Greg's purchaser number on one set of pages. I also had another order waiting for Friday. That was the part I hadn't expected. I left Front Range and drove to a small electrical job near Main Street. A bakery was replacing 2 ovens, and the owner wanted separate circuits run before opening. Normally, I could lose myself in that kind of work. That morning, I measured the same conduit twice. I cut one piece an inch short and had to start again. The invoice remained in my truck. Around 9, Greg called. I let it ring until it stopped. He called again 3 minutes later. I answered from the bakery's back hallway. Morning, I said. Dennis said you were at Front Range. I leaned against the wall. I told him not to hide it. What were you doing there? Checking my account. You could have asked me. I did ask you about the East Side house. And I answered. You said another crew was handling the roof. They are. Then why did you order the roofing? There was silence on his end. A mixer started in the bakery kitchen. I stepped outside through the service door. Greg said, It's complicated. Make it simple. The owner was in a bind. His roofer couldn't get materials on time, so you bought them. I moved things around, on my account. It was temporary. You charged $8,400. His voice sharpened. I know what I charged. You didn't tell me. I was going to. When? As soon as the draw came through. What draw? The project draw. The owner releases money after each phase. Has he released anything? That's between me and my client. The charge is between you and me. I said I'll pay it. You've said that before. That's not fair. I looked at the brick wall across the alley. Why not use your own supplier account? Another pause. My terms aren't as good. What terms do you have? Charles, I'm standing in a house with 6 people asking me questions. Can we do this later? Do you have credit at Front Range under your own name? I have supplier relationships. That's not an answer. I'm not discussing my whole business with you. You're running part of it through my account. He lowered his voice. I needed the materials to keep the schedule. If I missed the roof, I lost the job. I used available credit. That's what businesses do. That's what businesses do with their own credit. I'm paying it back. Before the statement is due? Yes. What date? He didn't answer. Greg? Soon. That word again. I asked, What's in the Friday order? He swore under his breath. Dennis had no right to tell you about that. It's my account. It's a normal materials package. For which house? The same project. How much? I don't have the total in front of me. Cancel it. I can't. You placed it? Cancel it. I've already promised the crew. You promised them materials charged to me. I promised a schedule. I heard someone call his name in the background. Greg covered his phone, answered them, then returned. Look, I need to go. Don't do anything until we talk. You mean, don't remove you? You're making this bigger than it is. How big is it? I just told you the money is coming. That wasn't my question. He ended the call. I stared at the screen until it went dark. Then I called Michelle. She answered immediately. Is everything okay? Why wouldn't it be? Greg just texted me. He said you're interfering with his job. What did he tell you? That you went to Front Range and started asking about his orders. Did he tell you what he ordered? He said materials. What kind? I don't know. For what address? Dad, I'm at work. Did you know he was charging business materials to my account? He uses the account for things he pays back. That answer was too broad. How often? What? How often does he charge things he pays back? I don't know. I'd have to check. You keep his books, not every day. Do you enter the Front Range invoices? Some of them. What happens to the others? I don't know what you mean. I could hear a door close on her end. Her voice became quieter. Why are you doing this now? Because I found an order I didn't authorize. He is authorized. For your home repairs. That was how it started. How did it continue? She didn't answer. I said, Michelle, has Greg told you where he got the roofing for the East Side renovation? No. Has he told you how much he charged this week? No, he just said you were upset over a supplier invoice. What does he say you should do? She took a breath. He wants you to wait. Until what? He gets paid. Did he give you a date? No. I rubbed my forehead. Look at the books tonight. I have plans. What plans? A person is coming over. Who? Someone Greg knows. He helps families organize finances. I straightened. Your finances? Ours and yours. No one is organizing mine. He's just giving advice. Why is he coming to your house to advise me? Because you won't meet anybody if we make it formal. I stepped farther into the alley. Did Greg arrange this? He found him. Did Greg tell this person I need financial help? He said, we're worried. About what? The mail, the supplier account. How defensive you've been. You open my mail, use my account, and now I'm defensive. I didn't use your account. No, Greg did. I can't talk about this while I'm working. Then come to my workshop tonight. For what? To look at something. Is this about the order? Yes. Tell me now. I want you to see it. She was quiet. Greg has a late day. He made time for a financial advisor. He's not an advisor exactly. What is he? I don't know his exact title. Then cancel that visit. You don't get to order us around. I'm not. I'm telling you I won't discuss my finances with a stranger. He's trying to help. Who is paying him? I don't know. Ask. She exhaled hard. Fine, I'll ask. And come by after work. I'll see. I need a yes or no. Why? Because there is an $8,400 charge with Greg's purchaser number on it, and you need to see where it went. She stopped breathing for a moment. I could hear the silence on the line. Then she said, 8,400? Yes. For the roof, not your roof. I don't understand. I know. Did Greg do that? The invoice says he did. She whispered something I couldn't hear. Michelle, I have to call him. Come here first. He's my husband. And I'm the person whose name is on the debt. She ended the call without agreeing. I went back inside the bakery and finished the circuits. I tested both outlets, labeled the panel, and cleaned the copper scraps from the floor. At noon, the bakery owner paid my invoice by check. I put it in my shirt pocket and thought about how ordinary that was. I did work. I sent an invoice. I got paid. There was no family loyalty attached to the transaction. When I returned home, a silver sedan was parked in my driveway. A man I didn't recognize sat behind the wheel, looking toward my house. He wore a pale shirt and held a folder against the steering wheel. As I pulled in, he started his engine. I parked behind him so he couldn't leave without speaking to me. He lowered his window. Can I help you? I asked. Are you Charles Howell? Yes. He looked at my work truck, then at me. I may have the wrong time. For what? A family financial planning visit. I didn't schedule one. He shifted the folder onto the passenger seat. Your son-in-law said you might be resistant. Resistant to what? Getting some support in place. I already have support in place. He gave me a patient smile. I understand this can feel intrusive. What is your name? He told me his first name, but I didn't recognize it. What company are you with? I consult independently. Are you a lawyer? No. A banker? No. An accountant? Not exactly. Then what do you do? I help families document areas of concern. The phrase was smooth. He had used it before. What areas did Greg ask you to document? The smile left his face. I think it would be better if we all sat down. It would be better if you left my property. He nodded once. I don't want conflict. Then don't come back without my invitation. I moved my truck and let him out. He drove away without stopping at Michelle's house. Inside the workshop, I placed the roofing invoice on my desk. I set the printed account activity beside it and wrote the consultant's first name on a pad. The invoice had confirmed Greg's charge. The man in the driveway confirmed something wider. Greg wasn't only using my credit. He was preparing an explanation for why I might object. I called Michelle again. This time she answered with, "What did you say to him?" I sent him away. He was supposed to meet us tonight. He came to my house without permission. Greg thought it would save time. Come here after work. Bring Greg. I don't know if he will. Then come alone. She was silent. I looked at the invoice on my desk. 7 o'clock, I said. After another long pause, she agreed. She arrived at 7:12. Greg wasn't with her. Michelle came through the side door carrying her laptop and the plastic file box she used for the business. She set both on my workbench, then saw the invoice on the desk. Is that it? Yes. She didn't take off her coat. I moved the invoice closer. She read the first page, then the second. On the third page, she stopped at the delivery address. That's his renovation? I know. She went back to the total. He told me it was supplies he had already covered. With what? I don't know. Did he tell you the amount? No. She sat on the wooden stool beside the bench. He said you were overreacting to a temporary charge. He called you after I spoke to him. Yes. What else did he say? That the owner owes him money. That's what he told me. Then why didn't he show either of us a payment date? Michelle opened her laptop. I'll look. It took several minutes to start. While we waited, she removed folders from the plastic box and lined them up on the bench. I recognized her labels: fuel, labor, materials, pending. She opened the materials folder and thumbed through it. The front range invoice wasn't there. Maybe he has it, she said. Why would he have an invoice you're supposed to enter? Sometimes he keeps job paperwork in the truck. Does he give it to you later? Usually. How much later? She looked annoyed. I don't keep a log of when he hands me paper. The laptop finished loading. She opened Greg's bookkeeping file and searched the supplier name. A list filled the screen. There were more front-range entries than I expected. Some were marked reimbursed. Others were marked owner draw. Several had no note beside them. Michelle scrolled slowly. Are all those from my account? I asked. Not necessarily. Does Greg have another account there? He said he did. Under what name? She clicked through 2 entries. I don't know. Then how do you separate them? By the card number. Show me. She opened one transaction. The last 4 digits matched the number on the copy of Greg's charge card authorization. She opened another. The same digits appeared. How far back does that go? I asked. Dad, I just started looking. Keep looking. She scrolled into the previous year. The numbers repeated. They weren't all large purchases. Some were a few boxes of fasteners. Some were blades, adhesive, safety equipment, and lumber. Ordinary business supplies. How much did he repay? I asked. I'd have to reconcile it. You keep the books. Haven't you reconciled it already? I reconcile his business checking. Against what? His invoices and deposits. What about my supplier statements? I don't get your statements. Then how could you know what he owed me? She stopped moving the mouse. Greg told me. There was no accusation in her answer. That made it worse. She had entered what he gave her and accepted what he said. I had paid the account and accepted what she said. Greg hadn't needed a complicated system. He only needed each of us to trust the person beside us. Michelle clicked into the pending folder. A note beside one entry said, Supplier repayment after project draw. There was no amount. Is that this roof? I asked. It could be. Who wrote the note? I did. When? Last week? Before the order was delivered? She checked the date. Yes. Then you knew he was planning to use my account. I knew he needed short-term supplier credit. You didn't know how much or where the materials were going. He said it would be repaid. From which payment? The project draw. What date? She closed the folder. You keep asking that, like I can make the client pay. I'm asking because you told me this was being handled. I thought it was. The side door opened. Greg walked in without knocking. He still had dust on his boots. He looked at Michelle, then at the papers spread across my bench. "You brought the books?" "She needed to see them," I said. He shut the door. "This is private business information, not when the expenses are on my account." He picked up the roofing invoice. "You went through all this over one order?" "One order for $8,400. I told you I'm repaying it." "Show me how." "I don't carry contracts around. Show me an email. My phone's in the truck. Go get it." Greg gave a short laugh. "I don't have to prove my receivables to you. You do if you use my credit." Michelle said, "Greg, when is the draw coming?" He looked at her. "Don't start. I'm asking. The inspection has to happen first. You told me it was approved. It is approved. Then when is the inspection? Thursday or Friday? What happens after that?" I asked. "The owner releases the draw." "How long after?" "It depends on his bank." I pointed to the invoice. "My statement doesn't depend on his bank." Greg dropped it on the bench. "You act like I stole from you. You use my account for your job without telling me. I'm authorized for the Hale repairs." That was 2 years ago. The reason didn't change because time passed. You left the card active. There it was. He wasn't wrong about that part. I could have removed him after the roof on Juniper Street was finished. I didn't. I saw other charges and paid them. I accepted vague explanations because challenging him risked making Michelle choose sides. Greg had used the access. I had kept providing it. Michelle said, "Can we fix this without turning it into a family war?" I looked at her. "What does fixing it mean?" "Greg pays you after the draw. And until then, you cover the statement. I have to cover it. It's my account." "You know what I mean." "I don't." She rubbed both hands over her face. "Don't cut him off right now." "Why?" "Because he has people depending on him." "So do I." "Who?" It came out before she thought about it. The workshop went quiet. Michelle lowered her hands. "Dad, I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it?" "You don't have employees. I have customers. I have my trade standing. I have work." "No one is saying you don't." Greg leaned against the cabinet. "The Friday order keeps the renovation moving. If I can't pick it up, the crew sits. The schedule slips. Then the owner has a reason to hold every payment. That order is on my account too. For a few days. You haven't repaid the roof. I haven't been paid." Michelle turned to me. "Please cover this one. Let him get through Friday. If the job collapses, it affects our mortgage, our bills, everything. You want me to risk more so the first risk might work out. I want you not to damage our marriage over money." I stared at her. "I didn't put this inside your marriage. I know, but you can still make it worse." Greg said nothing. He didn't need to. Michelle was asking for him. That was when my objective changed. Until then, I had wanted an honest explanation. I thought if I showed Michelle the invoice, she would understand why I was concerned. Then we'd work out repayment, set limits, and go back to dinner. But Greg had put his business debt between my daughter and me. He was counting on her to make refusal feel like abandonment. I closed her laptop. "I'll pay the posted balance." Greg straightened. "Good. Then Friday stays on." "I didn't say that. You just said you'd pay. What's already charged is my responsibility. The rest is part of the same job." "No." Michelle's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. "Dad, I'm not financing another purchase. It's one pickup. It's another use of my name." Greg stepped toward the bench. "You can't pull this 2 days before pickup. I can remove an authorized purchaser whenever I want." His expression changed. It wasn't anger at first. It was calculation. "You'd have to go in there. Yes. They won't cancel an active order. I'm not asking them to cancel it. Then what are you doing? Removing your authority to charge it to me." Michelle stood. "Can we wait until after the inspection?" "No." "Until Friday afternoon?" "No." Greg picked up his coat. "If you do this, you're not just hurting me. That's what you keep saying whenever you want me to carry something." He pointed at the invoice. "I built value with those materials. At a house I don't own. You'll get every dollar back. Then arrange your own credit and pay the account. You know, banks don't move that fast. Front Range issued your card because I guaranteed it. Not because they approved you." Michelle looked at him. "Is that true?" Greg didn't answer her. He opened the side door. "Come on, Michelle." She began gathering her folders. I helped put them into the plastic box. When I handed it to her, she wouldn't meet my eyes. "Call me when you get home," I said. "Why?" "So I know you got there. Greg is driving. I still want you to call." She carried the box outside. Greg stayed near the door. "You've paid for worse things than this," he said. "That doesn't make this one right. It means you can afford it." He walked out. I locked the side door behind them. On the shelf above my bench was a bottle of bourbon a customer had given me the previous Christmas. I poured one glass and sat with it beside the roofing invoice. I didn't make a speech. There was nobody there to hear one. I took one drink, then opened the account agreement again. The revocation instructions were simple. I could submit the change at the contractor counter with identification and my signature. New charges would stop once the account record was updated. Existing charges remained mine. At 8:20, Michelle texted, "Home, nothing else." I typed, "Thank you," then erased it. I typed, "I love you," and sent that instead. She didn't answer. The next morning, I arrived at Front Range before the breakfast burritos had been delivered. Dennis saw the form in my hand. "You're sure?" he asked. "I am." He checked my driver's license and account number. Then he turned his keyboard toward himself and entered the change. "What happens to the card in his wallet?" I asked. "It won't authorize? Can he still see the staged order?" "The order can stay under his name, but he needs valid payment at pickup." "Leave it staged." Dennis studied me. "Charles, if he comes Friday and tries that card, the system will reject it." "I understand." "You want me to call you if he asks questions?" "No. Give him the same answer you'd give anyone else." Dennis printed the confirmation. "Authorized purchaser removed." The time appeared at the bottom. I signed beneath it and kept the copy. Then I paid the full posted balance from my checking account. It included the roofing order and every smaller charge already processed. I watched the available balance in my account drop. Protecting my trade credit had a real cost. Restoring Greg's access would have cost more. By the time I reached my workshop, I had 3 missed calls from him. The 4th came while I placed the revocation confirmation beside the invoice. "What did you do?" he asked. "I removed your authorization. Put it back." "No, the order is already staged." "Then pay for it another way." "I don't have another way by Friday. That's a business problem. It becomes your daughter's problem when I lose this job." "Don't use her to ask me. She's your family. So are you, which is why I'm telling you directly." He became very quiet. Then he said, "If you're making decisions like this without understanding the consequences, maybe Michelle's right to be concerned about you." "What concern?" He ended the call. A minute later, Michelle sent a message. "We need to have a family meeting before Friday." This isn't only about the supplier account anymore. I read the message twice. Then I replied, "Who is included in this family meeting?" Michelle answered, "You, me, and Greg. What are you asking me to do?" The typing dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. "Restore the account through Friday and agree to let me help monitor your finances." That was the first direct answer I'd received from her. I wrote, "I'll discuss the second request. The supplier access stays revoked." She called immediately. "You can't decide before we meet. I already decided about the account." "Then what's the point?" "You asked to monitor my finances. I want to know why." "We've already told you why." "No, you've left pamphlets and taken my mail. A stranger came to my driveway. Now you're asking for access." "Those aren't reasons. He wasn't a stranger to Greg. He was to me." Michelle lowered her voice. "Can you come at 6? Will the consultant be there?" "No. Any other relatives?" "No. Any paperwork?" She hesitated. "I don't know." "Ask Greg." "Dad, just come. I'll be there at 6. I had a service call that morning at a small office near Roosevelt Park. Half the lights in a conference room had stopped working. The office manager assumed the fixtures were bad. They weren't. Someone had moved a tall cabinet against the wall and pinched a switch wire behind it. The copper wasn't exposed, but the insulation had been crushed. I shut off the circuit, replaced the damaged section, and moved the cabinet forward. The office manager stood in the doorway. "So, it wasn't the lights?" "No, it looked like the lights." That's where the problem showed up. I tested the switch 3 times before closing the box. On the drive home, I thought about Michelle's exact request. She didn't just want to help with mail, she wanted to monitor money. Greg needed my account active by Friday. Those 2 things had arrived together. That didn't prove Michelle had planned anything. It did tell me where to look. I pulled into my driveway around noon. My mailbox door was open. Inside was 1 grocery flyer and a card from a heating company. No bills, no bank envelope, nothing from Front Range. I checked the ground beneath the box. Then I walked to the workshop and opened the gray filing cabinet. My folders were still there. The account agreement, invoice, and revocation paper were where I had left them. I locked the cabinet again. Then I called Michelle. Did you take anything from my mailbox today? No. Did Greg? He's at work. Did either of you change my mail delivery? No. Are you sure? Yes. She sounded tired. I said I wouldn't take it again. All right. Do you believe me? I believe you didn't take it today. That's not what I asked. It's what I know. She ended the call. I went inside and checked the front door. No one had entered. Ellen's blue bowl sat beside the lamp with my keys inside. I took my electric bill from the tool bag and called the number on it. The automated system said I had no amount due. That didn't make sense. The envelope had arrived unopened except for the clean cut across the top, and the statement inside showed a balance. I waited for a representative. When she came on, I gave my account details. Your payment was received yesterday, she said. From which account? She couldn't give me the full number, but the last 4 digits were mine. I checked my credit union application. The payment had been scheduled automatically. I'd set that up years ago. The bill wasn't late. I hadn't forgotten it. Michelle had carried an already paid bill into my house as evidence that I needed help. I wrote the confirmation number on the statement. That was useful, but it also gave me a harder question. If she wasn't checking whether bills were paid, what did monitoring mean to her? At 6, I parked on Juniper Street. The porch light flickered when I walked up. Michelle opened the door and looked past me toward my truck. Did you bring the paperwork? What paperwork? The supplier account? No. Greg was sitting at the kitchen table. A manila folder lay in front of him. The plastic file box had been moved to the floor beside Michelle's chair. I sat across from Greg. What's in the folder? I asked. We'll get to that. We can get to it now. Michelle took the chair between us. Can we talk normally for 5 minutes? Go ahead. She folded her hands on the table. We're worried that you're making sudden financial decisions because you're overwhelmed. Which decisions? Closing access without considering the job. That was one decision. What else? The mail? What about it? You left bills sitting outside. No, I didn't. Greg saw them. Did he photograph them? Greg leaned back. Why would I photograph your mailbox? To show what you claim you saw. I was trying to protect your property. By opening my supplier statement? I never opened your statement. Did you tell Michelle to bring it inside? He looked at her. She was already stopping. Did you tell her the box was full? I may have mentioned it. It wasn't full. Michelle raised one hand. This is what we mean. You get fixed on one detail and can't see the concern behind it. What concern? That you're isolating yourself. I work almost every day. That's not the same as family. You usually call when you need work or money. Her face changed. That's cruel. It might be. Is it wrong? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Greg pulled the manila folder closer. This isn't productive. Show me the folder. He opened it and turned the first page toward me. The heading included the words petition and conservator. I read the first paragraph slowly. It was a form asking the county court to decide whether an adult could manage property and financial affairs. The person requesting it could describe missed bills, unusual spending, confusion, or vulnerability to financial harm. My name and address had been typed into the spaces. Michelle's name appeared as the proposed conservator. I looked at her. Did you fill this out? No. Did you ask for it? The consultant brought it. Who gave him my information? She looked at Greg. Greg said, It's public information. My birth date isn't printed on my mailbox. It's not hard to find. Why did you have him prepare this? It's a precaution. For what? If you keep making decisions that put the family at risk. I held the page flat against the table. My decision stopped you from spending my credit. It disrupted a job that supports your daughter. That doesn't make my account family property. No one said it was. The petition says, I'm unable to manage property. Which property have I mismanaged? Michelle said. We haven't signed anything. That's not what I asked. Greg pointed to a typed list attached behind the form. Unopened bills, missed correspondence, abrupt financial changes, suspicion toward family members. I read each line. Which bill did I miss? We don't know everything you pay, Michelle said. My electric bill was paid automatically before you brought it inside. She blinked. You called them? Yes. Why? To check. That's exactly the kind of thing we're asking you to do. I already did it. Greg said, one bill doesn't prove anything. Then name another. He crossed his arms. You've always handled money privately. And now that bothers you. It makes it hard to tell when something changes. What changed is your access. Michelle reached for the folder. Dad, this doesn't have to be filed. We can put it away. What do you want instead? She looked at Greg before answering. I want permission to see the accounts. Just view access. I can make sure everything is paid and no one is taking advantage. No? Why not? Because you haven't shown one missed payment. You don't trust me. I trusted you with my house key. You used it to sort my mail. I was helping. I told you to stop. That should have ended it. Greg tapped the folder. Then we need another way to confirm you're handling things. You don't need to confirm it. This affects us too. How? He didn't answer. I turned to Michelle. The $600 I sent you, did it pay the insurance? She looked down. It was going to. What happened? Greg needed to cover labor. Greg said, for one day. I kept looking at Michelle. You moved it? He asked me to transfer it to the business account. When? After dinner. I had sent money for their household. Before midnight, it went into Greg's business. Is the insurance paid? I asked. We have until the end of the week. That wasn't what you told me. I thought we'd replace it. With the project draw. Yes, which depends on an inspection that hasn't happened. Greg pushed his chair back. You're turning routine cash flow into dishonesty. You told her the $600 was for the house. It is for the house if it keeps my company operating. No, it's for your company, Michelle said. I moved it. Don't act like he stole it. I'm not. I'm asking why you told me something else. Because you would have said no. The room went still. That was the answer. She hadn't been confused. She had changed the purpose because she believed my refusal would be unreasonable. I nodded toward the petition. And that makes me unable to manage money? Michelle's eyes moved to the papers. No. Greg looked at her. She said it again. No, it doesn't. He closed the folder. Then, how do you explain everything else? What everything else? She asked. You told me he was forgetting things. I said he forgot where he put his supplier statement. You brought it into my house, I said. She rubbed her forehead. I know. You told him I forgot? I didn't remember taking it at first. You were standing at my sink when I asked about the first pamphlet. That's not the statement. No, it's another thing you brought into my house. Greg stood and picked up the folder. This is going nowhere. I held out my hand. Leave me a copy. No, it has my information on it. It's not your document. It concerns me. Michelle looked at him. Give him a copy. I only printed one, then let him photograph it. Greg's jaw tightened. I took out my phone. He kept one hand on the folder while I photographed each page. The petition hadn't been signed. The typed list had no dates, no unpaid amounts, and no supporting records. When I finished, Greg closed it. Happy? He asked. No, I put my phone away. But now I know what you're asking the court to believe. Michelle stood beside me as I walked to the door. I'm not signing it, she said quietly. Then tell him to destroy it. I can't make him. You can refuse to be named in it. She looked back toward the kitchen. Greg was watching us. I need time, she said. You have time. You don't have my consent. Outside, the porch light flickered twice and went dark. Michelle reached for the switch inside. Nothing happened. Do you have a spare bulb? She asked. Probably. I opened my tool bag, replaced the bulb, and tested the switch. The fixture came on, but the light still fluttered at the edges. It needs replacing, I said. I know. This time, I didn't offer to buy one. As I walked toward my truck, Greg called from the doorway. If you won't cooperate, I'll sign the petition myself. I turned around. Michelle stood behind him, holding the old bulb. Greg lifted the folder. And if your account stays closed Friday, I'll make sure everyone understands why. Then tell them the truth, I said. Greg gave me a thin smile. People believe what they can see. He went inside and shut the door. I stood beneath the dead porch light for another second. Then I walked to my truck. Michelle came outside before I started the engine. She had my house key in her hand. You forgot this, she said. That's your key, I know. She held it through the open window. I don't want it if you think I'm using it against you. I asked you not to take my mail, and I said I wouldn't. Keeping the key isn't the problem. It feels like it is. I took it from her. She crossed her arms against the cold. Are you really going to make him lose the job? He can pick up the order with another form of payment. You know he doesn't have one. I know that now. She looked toward the house. He told me his supplier credit was limited. I didn't know it meant this. What did you think my account was for? Your work, the house repairs. Sometimes helping Greg. Sometimes. She looked embarrassed. I didn't know how often. You entered the invoices. I entered what he gave me and marked them for repayment. Yes. Did you ever see the repayments? He said they were included in transfers. From which account? Business checking. To me? Sometimes he paid household things instead. That isn't repayment. It helped me. I was already helping you. She rubbed her arms. I know. The porch light came on behind her, flickered, then died again. Michelle said, "He doesn't have enough credit under the business. He had a couple of slow jobs and some late payments. Front Range wanted a guarantee he couldn't give them." When did you learn that? Tonight. Before or after he threatened the petition? After you left the table. So now you know why Friday matters. If he can't get the materials, the crew goes to another contractor. The owner can cancel. That still doesn't make the debt mine. No, but it makes the consequence mine. She said it without raising her voice. That was the real pressure. Greg's company might have been his name, but Michelle's income and home were tied to it. Every time I protected her from one consequence, I protected him too. What do you want me to do? I asked. You already know. Say it directly. She looked down the street. I want you to restore the card until he gets the project payment. And if the payment doesn't come, it will. If it doesn't, we figure something out, meaning I pay, meaning we don't decide tonight. The materials are waiting now. She pressed her lips together. Then restore it through Friday. No. She stepped back from the truck. Why make me ask if you'd already decided? Because I needed to hear whether you were asking for yourself or for Greg. What's the difference? I'm married to him. You still get to make your own decisions. And this is mine. All right, she looked surprised. All right what? I believe you chose to ask. Then help me. I can help without giving him my account. That's not the help I need. She turned and walked back to the house. I drove home with her key in my pocket. When I entered, I placed it beside my own keys in Ellen's bowl. The two pieces of metal struck each other with a sharper sound than usual. I didn't turn on the kitchen light. I stood there until the motion light outside went dark. The next morning, I opened my credit union application before getting dressed. A recurring transfer to Michelle was scheduled for the following day. I had set it up after Ellen died. The amount covered part of Michelle's utilities and usually left enough for groceries. I called it a cushion. Michelle called it Dad's transfer. Most months, neither of us mentioned it. I selected the transfer and read the options. Skip once, change amount, cancel future transfers. My thumb stayed over the screen. Stopping it meant Michelle would notice immediately. It also meant she might have to separate her household money from Greg's business for the first time. I canceled the future transfers. The application asked whether I was sure. I confirmed. Then I called the credit union's main number and asked whether anyone else had view or transaction access to my account. The representative checked. No joint owners, she said. No authorized users. Any recent requests to change that? No. Any address changes? No. Any new trusted contact? No. That answered one concern. Michelle and Greg had talked about access, but they hadn't obtained it. I asked the representative to add verbal identification questions to telephone requests. She explained the process, and I chose answers no one could guess from family history. When I hung up, my money was still where I had left it. The transfer to Michelle was the exception. It would remain in my account the next morning. Protecting it didn't feel like winning. It felt like removing a chair someone expected to find in the dark. At 8, I drove to Front Range for electrical supplies. I needed conduit fittings, 2 disconnects, and weatherproof boxes for a garage job. Dennis scanned the materials. Your account is clear, he said. Good. He placed the receipt on the counter. Greg called 3 times yesterday. What did you tell him? That he's no longer authorized. Anything else? He asked whether a mistake had been made. What did you say? No. Dennis slid my charge card back. He also asked if Michelle could be added over the phone. I stopped putting the receipt into my wallet. What did you tell him? Only the account holder can add someone. Did Michelle call? No. Thank you. That was useful information. Greg wasn't only trying to restore his own access. He was looking for another path through her. I loaded my supplies and called Michelle from the parking lot. Did Greg ask you to be added to my supplier account? No. He asked Front Range if you could be. She was quiet. When? Yesterday. He didn't tell me. If he asks, the answer is no. I didn't say I wanted it. I know. Do you? Yes. She let out a tired breath. What do you want, Dad? I want to review your household bills with you. Why? You said you needed help. I needed the transfer. You said it was for regular expenses. Bring the bills and I'll help you sort them. Are you going to pay them? No, then what's the point? We can call the insurance company, ask for a different withdrawal date. We can list what's due and what income you have coming. I already know what's due. Then you know what needs to stay out of Greg's business. That isn't your decision. It is if you ask me to replace it. She said nothing. I can come over after work, I said. Greg won't want you there. This isn't about his books. He'll say everything is connected. That's the problem. Her voice tightened. You don't understand what happens if his company goes down. Explain it. We lose his income. You have income. Not enough for everything. What can you cover? I don't know exactly. You keep saying that. Because I'm standing in a break room trying not to cry. I close my eyes. All right, I'm sorry. No, you're not. You're proving a point. I don't want you to lose insurance. Then send the $600 again. I already sent it once. I moved it. I told you that. I'm not replacing it, she whispered. You've never done this to me. That sentence cost more than the supplier payment. She wasn't talking about a single transfer. She was talking about the rule I had created across her whole life. If she fell short, I filled the space. I had called that love for so long that stopping felt like punishment to both of us. I'll help you call the insurance company, I said. I have to go. She hung up. I sat in the truck until another contractor pulled into the space beside me. My phone showed an unread message from Greg. Put the card back today, and this all stops. I didn't answer. At the garage job, I installed the disconnects and weatherproof boxes. The homeowner had cleared the work area before I arrived. My tools stayed dry beneath the open garage door. Around noon, I received a call from a customer scheduled for the following week. Charles, are you feeling all right? He asked. I'm fine. Greg mentioned you might be cutting back. I'm not. He said the family was helping with your accounts. The family isn't helping with my accounts. The customer became uncomfortable. I probably shouldn't have said anything. What exactly did he tell you? Just that you were having a rough patch. Forgetting bills, getting mixed up over business paperwork. Did he ask you to cancel my work? No. He said not to worry if you called, sounding upset. I looked at the panel in front of me. Have I ever sounded confused to you? No. Have I missed your job? No. Then I'll see you next week at the scheduled time. All right. After the call, I wrote the customer's name and Greg's words in a notebook. I added the date and time. That was a professional cost I couldn't pay with a check. Greg had started building his explanation outside the family. If I defended myself emotionally, he could call that another symptom. If I stayed silent, his version spread without resistance. I finished the garage job, tested every circuit, and asked the homeowner to watch while I demonstrated the disconnects. He signed the work order without hesitation. Back at home, I placed the signed order beside my notebook. For an hour, I considered calling everyone Greg might know. I could tell them about the roof invoice, the revocation, and the petition. That would turn my life into a contest of phone calls. It also wouldn't help Michelle. The original thing I wanted was no longer enough. Proving Greg had misused the account wouldn't separate my daughter's needs from his business. Showing I was competent wouldn't change the way I had made money our main family language. I needed a different result. Greg's access would remain closed. That part was simple. The harder part was making sure Michelle had a way to stand without replacing every dollar she lost. I could offer time, information, and work. I could answer direct questions. I could stop funding decisions she hid from me. Whether she accepted any of that was hers. I called her once more. She answered but didn't speak. The offer stands, I said. Bring your household bills here. I'll sit with you. I won't pay them. And I won't look at Greg's business unless you ask. Why would I come? Because you need to know what belongs to you and what belongs to him. Everything belongs to both of us. Then you need to know all of it. She was silent for several seconds. Did you cancel tomorrow's transfer? She asked. Yes. How long? It won't restart. I heard her chair scrape. So, this is permanent. The automatic money is finished. What about me? You can call me without asking for money. That's easy for you to say. No, it isn't. She ended the call. A few minutes later, Greg texted a photograph. It showed the first page of the conservatorship petition on their kitchen table. His signature was visible at the bottom. Beneath the photograph, he wrote, "You made your choice. Now, I'm protecting my wife." I saved the photograph to a folder on my phone. I didn't call him. I didn't ask why he had signed it. He had already told me. He wanted the card restored, and the petition gave him another way to apply pressure. A signature on a photograph wasn't the same as a filed case. I needed to know whether anything had actually happened. I called the county court clerk's office. After waiting on hold, I gave my name and asked whether a petition concerning me had been filed. The clerk searched. "I don't see anything under that name," she said. "If someone has signed a form, does that change anything?" "Not until it's filed and the required notice is given." "Would I receive a copy?" "Yes." "Can somebody take over my accounts before I receive notice?" "Not from a standard petition." That was all I needed from her. Greg had prepared something real enough to frighten me, but he didn't have control. Not yet. I printed his photograph and added it to the folder in my gray cabinet. Behind it, I placed the electric payment confirmation, the supplier invoice, the revocation form, and the notes from my customer's phone call. I wasn't building a case against my family. I was making sure I didn't have to argue from memory. Then I called Mesa Community Credit Union and requested an in-person security note on my accounts. Any request to add an owner, change an address, or create outside access would require me to appear with identification. The representative read the note back to me. "Is there current fraud?" she asked. "No." "Has anyone taken money without permission?" "No." "Then this is a precaution?" "Yes." She added it. By 10 that morning, my supplier account and credit union accounts required my direct approval. The signed petition had no effect. The scheduled transfer to Michelle would stay in my account. Those were practical facts. They didn't require Greg's agreement. Around 11, Michelle called. "The insurance company emailed me," she said. "What did they say?" "The payment failed, because the money was moved." "I know." "When is the policy at risk?" "There's a date on the notice." "What date?" "Next week." "That gives you time." "For what?" "To call them." She was silent. "I don't know what to say. Tell them the payment came from the wrong account and ask what options they have. They'll want money, probably." "I don't have enough until payday." "Ask whether they can move the withdrawal." "What if they say no?" "Then ask what minimum keeps the policy active." "Are you going to cover that?" "No." She gave a small, bitter laugh. "Of course. I'll sit with you while you call. I can make a phone call, then make it. I didn't say I wanted you there. You called me." She didn't answer. I said, "Bring the notice and your next pay date. We'll deal with the bill that's actually in front of you. What about the mortgage? Is it due today?" "No." "Then not today." She took a breath. "Can I come during lunch?" "I'll be here." She arrived 20 minutes later with the insurance notice folded inside her purse. She parked beside my truck and came into the workshop without using her key. She knocked on the side door. I opened it. "You don't need to knock." I gave the key back. "You can still knock once and come in." She stepped inside. The roofing invoice was no longer on the desk. I had cleared the surface except for a notepad, 2 pens, and the telephone. Michelle removed the notice from her purse. "Greg doesn't know I'm here. I didn't ask. He thinks you'll try to get me to separate everything. I'm trying to help with the insurance. That's separating something. It's one bill." She sat on the stool. I read the notice. The failed withdrawal had started a grace period. The policy was still active. "You haven't lost coverage," I said. "Not yet." "Call the number." She dialed from her phone and put it on speaker. A representative answered. Michelle gave her policy information and explained that the bank account didn't have enough money when the withdrawal ran. The representative asked whether she wanted to submit the payment again. Michelle looked at me. I pointed to the notepad. She wrote, "Not enough." "I can't run the full amount today," she said. "Is there another option?" The representative offered to divide the payment. The first part could be withdrawn after Michelle's next paycheck. The rest would come out later that month. Michelle asked whether coverage would stay active. "Yes, as long as the first scheduled amount clears," the representative said. Michelle gave her personal checking information, not Greg's business account. The representative confirmed the dates and sent an email. When the call ended, Michelle stared at the phone. "That was it?" she asked. "That was it. I thought they'd cancel us." The notice said to call. I didn't read all of it. "You read the amount." She gave me a tired look. "Don't." "All right." She opened the email and showed me the new schedule. Can you cover the second part if the project draw is late? No. She lowered the phone. You didn't even think about it. I already thought about it. What if I can't cover both? Then we look at your other expenses before the second date. If you want help. But no money. No money. She folded the notice and put it back into her purse. For the first time since the supplier invoice appeared, we had solved one of her problems without a transfer. It wasn't a large victory. The insurance still had to be paid. Her budget was still tight, but the policy remained active, and she had used her own account. Michelle leaned against the workbench. Greg says you blocked changes at the credit union. How would he know? He called them. What did he ask? He wanted to know whether I could be added to help. Did you ask him to call? No. Did you want to be added? She looked at the closed cabinet. I thought view access might calm things down. It wouldn't. Maybe not. Did you see the petition he signed? He showed me after he sent it to you. Did you tell him not to file? Yes. What did he say? That he wouldn't need it if you cooperated. I pulled out the other stool and sat across from her. That's not a precaution, Michelle. I know what it sounds like. What does it sound like? She looked down at her hands. Leverage. It was the first time she had named it. I didn't push further. She rubbed the missing polish from her thumbnail. He says he's protecting me from you cutting me off. I stopped the automatic transfer. That feels like cutting me off. I'm still sitting here. Because I had a bill. You called with a bill. What else would I call about? Anything. She looked at me as if I had asked her to speak a language she didn't know. Then she glanced toward Ellen's handwriting on the yellow note beside my workbench. Is that Mom's? Yes. She read it without touching it. Call Michelle Sunday. No reason needed. She left you reminders to call me, sometimes. Why didn't you? I did when I had a reason. That isn't what it says. No. We sat quietly. A truck stopped in the driveway. Michelle went to the window. It's Greg. He entered through the side door without knocking. His eyes moved from Michelle to the insurance notice on the bench. What are you doing here? He asked her, handling the insurance. I told you I'd take care of it. The payment failed. I know that. Then why didn't you tell me? I was fixing it. How? The draw's coming. She held up her phone. I moved the withdrawal to my pay dates. Greg looked at me. You called the insurance company with her? She made the call. You need to stay out of our finances, Michelle said. You called his credit union. That was different. How? I was trying to restore what he took away. It's his account. Greg stared at her. I watched him realize that the conversation had changed while he wasn't present. He pointed at the phone. Your paycheck can't cover all that. I'll adjust some things. What things? My expenses. Our expenses. Then we'll look at them. His face tightened. With him? If I need help. I'm your husband. And he's my father. Greg turned to me. You're using money to split us. I didn't pay anything. That's the game now? You make her struggle, then sit here acting helpful. I helped her read the notice. She can read, I know. Michelle stood. Stop talking about me like I'm not here. Greg picked up her purse and held it toward her. We need to go. She didn't take it. Did you call the credit union about adding me? I asked a question. Why didn't you ask me first? Because you were upset. I'm upset now. He placed the purse on the bench. The Friday pickup pays for all of this. Your father knows that. No, I said. The Friday pickup creates another charge. The job pays after the next phase. You said the roof phase would pay. The inspection moved. To when? Monday. Michelle stared at him. You said Thursday or Friday. The inspector rescheduled. Then no draw before the insurance payment. I said, I'm handling it. With what? He looked at me again. There was the answer. Greg walked toward the door. Come home when you're done choosing sides. Michelle flinched. He left without her. We heard his truck back out and accelerate down the street. She remained standing beside the workbench. I should go, she said. I won't stop you. I need my car. Do you have your keys? She checked her purse. Yes. Then you're all right. She looked at the insurance schedule again. I can cover the first payment. Good. The second will be close. We can review it before then. She nodded. As she reached the side door, she stopped. Don't call Greg's customers. I haven't. Don't call the family either. I haven't done that. He says you're going to ruin his name. I'm protecting mine. She left. An hour later, Greg sent me a calendar invitation. The location was Mesa Community Credit Union. The title said, Family Account Review. Michelle was included. The meeting was set for Thursday afternoon, less than a day before the Friday pickup. In the message beneath it, Greg wrote, Bring proof you have been supporting her, or admit you stopped. I didn't accept the invitation. I called Michelle instead. She answered after several rings. Did you agree to this meeting? I asked. Yes. Why at the credit union? Because that's where the transfers come from. Whose idea was it? Greg made the appointment, but I agreed. What are you expecting the credit union to do? Show what changed. The automatic transfer stopped. I already told you that. It isn't just the automatic transfer. What else? She spoke away from the phone for a moment. I heard Greg answer in the background. Then she said, He thinks you should show how much you've actually been helping. Why? Because you keep saying you support me without supporting what affects me. I paid the supplier balance. That protected you? Yes. What protected us? The $600 I sent was supposed to protect your insurance, and I moved it. I know. You keep saying that, like I'm not allowed to make a mistake. You're allowed. I'm not required to finance the next one. Greg said something louder in the background. Michelle covered the phone. When she returned, her voice was flat. If you restore the card before the meeting, we can cancel it. And the petition? He says he'll put it away. He signed it. He hasn't filed it yet. How do you know? He told me. Do you believe him? Another silence. I want to. That wasn't my question. What do you want me to say? The truth. The truth is I don't know who to believe anymore. You saw the invoice. I know. You saw the account entries. I know. You moved money meant for insurance. I know, Dad. Her voice broke on the last word. I stopped. She took a breath. Greg says you've been paying parts of our bills for years, then suddenly stopped because you got angry at him. I stopped giving him my supplier credit and the transfer, yes. And now you won't help with the insurance. I helped you arrange it. You know what I mean? I do. That was the problem. To Michelle, helping still meant removing the cost. Everything else felt like advice from someone holding back the real solution. She said, If you come tomorrow, don't humiliate me. I'm not trying to. Don't bring the roof invoice and make this about Greg. The meeting exists because of Greg. It's about me too. All right? And don't talk to me like I'm one of your customers. How do I do that? You make everything a question. You wait until I answer wrong. I'm trying to understand. No, you're trying to make me admit you're right. I looked at the calendar invitation on my computer. Do you want me at the meeting? I asked. I want my father there. I'll be there. Does that mean you'll restore the account? No. She ended the call. I clicked accept. The next morning, the automatic transfer didn't leave my account. I saw the unchanged balance before breakfast. For years, that money had moved without either of us doing anything. Now it stayed. At 8:15, the customer who had called about my health contacted me again. His electrical work was scheduled for the following week. I had already ordered the panel parts and received a materials deposit. Charles, I need to postpone, he said. Is there a problem with the schedule? Not exactly. Then what changed? He cleared his throat. Greg sent me something last night. What did he send? A photograph of court paperwork. The conservatorship petition. I didn't read all of it. Did it have a court stamp? I think so. That answered whether Greg had filed. The customer continued. I'm not saying I agree with him. I just don't want to be caught between family members. You aren't between us. He says you may not be able to finish active work. Did he offer to take the job? No. Did he recommend someone else? No. He said I should wait until things are settled. I looked at the panel parts stacked near my workshop wall. I can complete the work as scheduled. I know. I just need to pause. For how long? I'm not sure. Then I'll return your deposit. You don't have to do that today. I'm not holding it without a work date. I wrote him a check and drove it to his office. He met me in the parking lot. I handed him the check and a copy of the materials order. You already bought everything? He asked. Yes. Can you return it? Most of it. I'm sorry. I understand. He looked down at the check. For what it's worth, you seem fine to me. Then you should have kept the appointment. He nodded once. I probably should have. I left before either of us tried to make the conversation easier. Back at the workshop, I separated the returnable materials from the special order parts. The restocking charge would come out of my pocket. So would the time I had spent measuring his service panel and preparing the order. Greg had caused a real loss without touching my account. He had made my competence into a question people could avoid answering by avoiding me. At 10, a delivery envelope appeared at my front door. Inside was a copy of the petition. The first page carried a filing stamp. Greg had signed as the person requesting the conservatorship. Michelle was still named as the proposed person to manage my finances. The typed concerns were the same ones I had photographed: missed mail, abrupt decisions, suspicion toward family, risky account behavior. A new line had been added: termination of established household support without reasonable planning. The $600 wasn't mentioned. Neither was the money Michelle had moved into Greg's business. The notice gave a future date for the court to consider the petition. Nothing changed immediately. No one had authority over me. Still, the filing existed. I placed it in the gray cabinet. Then I called Michelle. "Did you know we filed it?" "What?" "The petition was delivered." "No." "You're still named in it." I told him not to. "Did you sign anything?" "No." "Did you give him permission to use your name?" "I said I would help if someone decided you needed it." "That isn't the same thing. I know." "Will you tell him to remove your name?" She began crying quietly. "I can't do this right now. You don't have to do anything for me. I need to know what you'll do for yourself." "That sounds like another test. It's a direct question." "I'm at work. Then answer after work." She hung up. Greg arrived at my workshop before noon. He parked across the driveway so I couldn't back out without asking him to move. Then he came through the open garage. I was packing the returnable panel parts. "You got the papers," he said. "Yes." "You understand, I was serious. I understood before." He glanced at the boxes. "Lose a job?" "One customer postponed. I told him to be careful." "You sent him the petition." "People have a right to know." "To know what?" "That there are questions." "You created the questions. You created the situation." I closed the box and taped it. Greg leaned against my workbench. "This can still end today." "How?" "Go to Front Range, add me back until the project draw clears." "And then?" "I withdraw the petition. You correct what you told my customer?" "I tell everyone it was a misunderstanding." "Was it?" "That depends on what you do next." He said it calmly. "If I restored the account, I might save the electrical job. Michelle might answer my calls. The petition might disappear before anyone else saw it. All I had to do was guarantee another order for a business that couldn't buy materials on its own." "What happens if the Friday charge is larger than the draw?" I asked. "It won't be. Show me the total. You can see it after pickup." "No." His patience broke. "You care more about being right than your daughter's house. Her house payment isn't in that order. My income pays the mortgage. Then your business needs to support itself. It would if you stopped interfering. Your credit was already gone. Temporarily. You used mine instead of fixing yours." He stepped closer. "I am giving you one chance to act like family. I paid every charge you already made. You shut off the next phase. I stopped the next debt." He straightened and pointed toward the house. "Michelle won't forgive you when this job collapses. That is her choice. You think she'll come running back because you helped with one insurance call? No. Then what are you trying to prove? Nothing to you." That answer seemed to bother him more than an argument. He moved away from the bench. "The credit union meeting is at 3 tomorrow. The manager will hear that you cut off established support without warning. Michelle will explain what you normally paid. She can't explain whatever she believes. And when your own daughter says you're not acting like yourself, I'll answer her. You should think about what that sounds like with a petition already filed." "I have." Greg walked to the garage opening. "You have until Front Range closes today." "No." He turned. "I didn't ask for your answer yet. You have it." He left. I waited until his truck cleared the driveway. Then I loaded the returnable materials and drove to Front Range. The supplier yard was busy. Friday's staged orders stood in marked sections behind the counter area. I could see bundles of lumber and panels with pickup tags attached. Greg's order was there. His name appeared in black marker on a white tag. I could have walked inside and restored him. The form would have taken minutes. Instead, I returned my unused materials and accepted the restocking charge. Then I asked Dennis to print the current authorization page. Only my name appeared. "Do you want any other changes?" he asked. "No. Greg's order stays staged until tomorrow morning." I understand. He called again. I expected that. Dennis handed me the page. I folded it and placed it in my wallet. Driving home, I accepted what keeping that single line would cost. Greg could damage my name. Michelle could stop speaking to me. A filed petition could force me to defend decisions I had every right to make. Restoring his access might quiet all of that. I left it revoked. At home, I opened the credit union invitation and added one response for Michelle and Greg. I will attend. The supplier authorization will not change before or after the meeting. Neither of them replied. I slept badly that night, not because I thought the supplier account had somehow changed. I had the printed authorization page in my wallet. What bothered me was the meeting. Greg wanted the credit union involved because money was the one language our family had practiced for years. He expected Michelle to describe what I usually paid. Then my refusal would look abrupt. The petition supplied the reason. By morning, I knew I needed two answers before walking into that room. First, I needed to know the supplier revocation couldn't be bypassed by a phone call, an old card, or pressure at the counter. Second, I needed to know what the credit union could show if Michelle made the accusation Greg had been preparing. I went to Front Range when the contractor counter opened. The Friday breakfast signs were already taped to the glass doors. A local tool company had set up a display near the entrance. 2 folding tables stood against the wall for coffee and burritos. Greg's order was still staged in the yard. Dennis saw me and said, "Nothing has changed. I need to verify something." He turned his monitor. "What happens if Greg presents the old card tomorrow?" The system checks the purchaser number. Anne sees he was removed. Yes. Can someone at the counter override it? Not without adding him back. Who can add him? You. Can Michelle? No. Can Greg pay another way? Of course. Cash, check if approved, or another credit card. So the order isn't being withheld from him. No. He just can't charge it to your account. What if he gives the card number by phone? Same purchaser record. It won't authorize. That removed the last uncertainty. My account wasn't a piece of plastic in Greg's wallet. It was a permission stored in Front Range's system. The card only worked while that permission existed. It no longer existed. Dennis leaned closer. He asked for the counter manager yesterday. What did he say? That there was a family misunderstanding and you'd reverse the change. What did the manager tell him? That the account record controls. Good. Charles, we can cancel the staged order now. No. It would avoid a scene tomorrow. It would also stop him from paying for it himself. Dennis nodded. You think he has another way? I don't know. Then why leave it? Because I'm ending my part. I'm not trying to end his business. Dennis looked toward the yard. If the card rejects, people will notice. That's his decision. He knows he was removed. You're sure he knows? He called me 4 times. All right, I thanked him and left. The easier thing would have been to cancel the order. I could have told Dennis to return everything to stock before Greg arrived. I could also have called the renovation owner. I knew the address. I could have explained that the roofing and Friday materials had been ordered through someone else's credit. That might have ended Greg's job before breakfast. I didn't do either. The boundary was enough. At 9, I called Mesa Community Credit Union and asked for the branch manager who would attend our meeting. She came on after a short hold. Mr. Howell, I have you scheduled for 3, she said. I know. I have a records question before then. All right. My daughter and I have both banked there for a long time. How far back can you identify transfers between our accounts? That depends on the accounts and the kind of record. Some began when she was born. The account was held for her then. Later, transfers went to accounts in her name. Do you know the original account number? I have old statements. That helps. Your credit union changed systems years ago. Were the older records kept? We preserved a legacy ledger during the conversion. Can it identify transfers from me into accounts held for Michelle Howell and later Michelle Tucker? She asked me to confirm Michelle's birth year and previous name. I gave both. I would need your written authorization to run the complete history, she said. Can it be done during the meeting? It may take several minutes. Would it show the transfer dates and amounts? Yes, if they're coded between the identified accounts. Would it include checks I wrote to stores? No. Only traceable account-to-account transfers in our system. That mattered. The report wouldn't include everything I had ever paid. It wouldn't include the supplier balance, repairs I bought directly, or checks to outside companies. It would show only the money that moved from my credit union accounts into accounts held for Michelle or by Michelle. Can anyone else request it? I asked. Not from your account without authorization. Don't run it before the meeting. I won't. If the question comes up, I'll decide there. Understood. I hung up. I knew the report existed. I didn't know the total. Neither did Michelle or Greg. I went to the filing cabinet and found the oldest credit union folder. Ellen had kept the first deposit receipt from the account we opened after Michelle was born. The paper was thin and yellow at the edges. Ellen had written Michelle Fund across the top. I didn't take it out of the workshop. Using that receipt in front of Michelle would have been cruel. It belonged to a time when helping her carried no bargain and no resentment. I returned it to the folder. The credit union's own record would be enough if it became necessary. Around 11, Michelle called. "Are you still coming?" she asked. "Yes." "Greg says you contacted the branch manager." I asked what records they keep. "What records?" "Transfer records." "For how long?" "I don't know exactly." That was true. I knew the system could search back to her birth. I didn't know how complete the results would be. "Are you bringing statements?" she asked. "No." "The roof invoice?" "No." "The petition?" "No." She seemed surprised. "Then, what are you bringing?" "My identification." "Dad, I don't want this to turn into a trial." "Neither do I. Greg thinks the manager can confirm you canceled regular support. The manager can confirm account activity. She can't decide what I owe you. I never said you owed me." "Then what are you asking for?" She became quiet. "I want to know whether you stopped because you're angry or because something's wrong." "I told you why I stopped. You said the money became part of Greg's business." "It did." "But you canceled money that came to me." "Yes." "Why?" "Because you moved it into his business. Once. Once after telling me it was for insurance. You keep going back to that. It happened this week. I made one bad choice, and I stopped automatically funding the next one." She didn't speak for several seconds. Then she asked, "If the bank shows everything was normal until now, will you reconsider?" "No." "What's the point of the meeting? You scheduled it." "I thought facts might calm this down." "Which facts?" "That you always helped us." "I agree with that. Then why are you being difficult?" "Because past help doesn't approve Friday's purchase." She sighed. "Greg says if the card stays closed, he can't make payroll. He told me the crew would leave. That's the same problem." "No. One is a business relationship. The other is wages. Both depend on the pickup. Then he should have arranged payment before promising the work." "You're not listening." I'm not paying." She lowered her voice. "If the company fails, I may lose my home. If you need help understanding your household choices, I'm here. But you won't replace the money." "No." "Then you're not really here." That sentence landed differently than it had before. I didn't rush to correct it. "I'll see you at 3, I said. She ended the call. At noon, Greg emailed me directly. The subject line said, "Final opportunity." The message was short: "Restore the account by 2:30. He would withdraw the petition, cancel the credit union meeting, and explain to my customer that the matter had been resolved. I printed it. Then I wrote one answer: "The supplier authorization remains revoked. I will attend the meeting." I saved both pages in the cabinet. That email removed another uncertainty. Greg wasn't seeking a neutral review of my finances. He was offering to remove the damage he had caused if I restored his purchasing privilege. I could have forwarded the email to Michelle. I nearly did. It would have shown her that he connected the petition, my customer, and the card in one offer. It might have forced her to see what I saw. I didn't send it. She had already watched him use the petition as pressure. Another document wouldn't make her choose differently before she was ready. At 1:30, I finished replacing a faulty outdoor disconnect for a regular customer. I explained the work, collected payment, and wrote a clear receipt. Then I returned home to change my shirt. My keys dropped into Ellen's bowl. Michelle's returned key was still beside them. I picked it up and held it for a moment. There was a version of the afternoon where I went to the meeting with every paper I had. I could place the roof invoice, the petition, Greg's email, and the electric payment confirmation in front of Michelle. I could prove he had lied and she had helped him. That would not necessarily bring her closer. It might only leave her ashamed and trapped beside the person she still had to go home with. I put the key back. The bank report carried the same risk. If I authorized it, I would be showing Michelle the financial shape of her entire relationship with me. Things she remembered as separate emergencies might appear as one continuous pattern. She might see love. She might see control. She might see an account she had mistaken for a permanent part of her own income. I couldn't choose her reaction. I could choose when to use the record. I decided I would not request it simply because Greg challenged me. I would not print it to embarrass Michelle or collect gratitude for money already given. If she stated in that room that I had suddenly stopped paying her bills, I would let the credit union answer with its own history. That choice would change our relationship. Afterward, Michelle could no longer tell herself the support had been occasional. I could no longer pretend the transfers had been harmless gifts with no emotional expectation attached. Once printed, the pattern would belong to both of us. I accepted that cost. At 2:20, I drove past Front Range on the way to the credit union. Contractors were loading Thursday orders near the side gate. Greg's Friday materials remained in the staged section. No one had canceled them. No one had seized his tools or stopped his job. The only thing missing was my permission to charge the order. At 2:55, I entered Mesa Community Credit Union. The branch manager stood near an office with glass walls. Michelle sat at the small meeting table inside. Greg was beside her. His Front Range charge card lay on the table next to his phone. When Michelle saw me, she straightened in her chair. Greg covered the card with his hand. I took the chair across from them. The branch manager closed the glass office door and sat at the end of the table. Greg moved his hand, leaving the charge card visible. "Thank you for meeting with us," the manager said. "I understand there's a disagreement about account support." "There's a sudden change," Greg said. "Charles has always helped Michelle with household expenses. This week, he cut everything off." The manager looked at Michelle. "Is that your understanding?" Michelle glanced at me. "Yes." "What are you asking the credit union to do?" "We need a transfer," Greg said. "Just enough to get through the next business draw." The manager kept her eyes on Michelle. "Mrs. Tucker?" Michelle rubbed her thumbnail. "We need the regular support restored." "What regular support?" "The household transfer. Help with bills when we're short." "From your father's account?" "Yes." The manager said, "You don't have authority over his account." "I know." Greg leaned forward. "We're not claiming she does. We're asking Charles to authorize one transfer today." "For what amount?" Greg named the estimated price of the staged order without showing a written total. "I didn't repeat it," the manager asked. "Is that a household bill?" "It protects household income," Greg said. "That wasn't my question." Michelle looked at him, then at me. "The money is for his material pickup," she said. "And your position?" the manager asked. Michelle's shoulders dropped. "My father has stopped paying our bills." "This is what happened after he stopped." Greg nodded quickly. "That's exactly right." The words were finally in the room. Not a hint, not a pamphlet, not a concern phrased by someone else. Michelle had said it herself. I asked, "Which bill did I stop paying?" "The transfer didn't come today." "That's a transfer, not a bill. It pays bills." "Which one?" "Our utilities, food, insurance." "The insurance payment failed before I canceled the transfer. Because I moved the money." "Where?" She looked at Greg. "Into the business." The manager didn't write anything. She simply listened. Greg said, "We're getting distracted by one internal transfer. Charles has supported this household for years." Then he became angry over a business expense and stopped. I turned to Michelle. "Do you believe my support was occasional or regular?" "I don't know." "Do you believe it began after you married Greg?" "No." "How much do you think I've transferred to you?" She shook her head. "I don't know." Greg said, "That isn't relevant to what happens tomorrow. It's relevant to what she just said." He pushed the charge card toward the center of the table. "This is the actual issue. Put me back on the supplier account until the project pays." "The supplier account isn't held here," the manager said. "I'm asking Charles." "I know." The manager looked at me. "Mr. Howell, do you want to authorize a transfer today?" "No." Greg sat back. "There. That's what we came to document." I took out my driver's license and placed it on the table. "I want the complete transfer history between my accounts and accounts held for or by Michelle." The manager looked at the license. "How far back?" 1986 through this year." Michelle stared at me. "Why 1986? That's when the transfers began." She looked confused. "I was born that year." "Yes." The manager asked, "Do you authorize me to search the legacy ledger as well as the current system?" "I do." She placed a one-page authorization form in front of me. I read it and signed. Greg tapped the table. "Is this necessary?" Michelle said. "Let him." The manager took the form and left the office. Through the glass, I saw her enter information at a workstation. She checked the old account number against her screen, then walked to a printer behind the counter. Nothing happened at first. Greg picked up the charge card and turned it between his fingers. "This proves my point," he said. "You're digging through decades of records instead of solving a current problem." I didn't answer him. Michelle asked, "Did Mom know about all of it?" "Yes." "Did she make the transfers?" "Some." "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "You knew we helped. I didn't know you kept doing it from the same account." "The accounts changed, the transfers didn't." The printer started. One page came out, then another. The branch manager collected the first set and returned to her workstation. She typed again. More pages printed. The sound carried through the lobby. Michelle watched each page slide into the tray. Greg checked the time on his phone. "This could take all afternoon." "It's been 2 minutes," Michelle said. He looked at her. "We have to solve Friday." "I know." The manager returned with a thick report. She placed it in front of me, not Michelle. "This covers transfers we could identify from 1986 through the current date," she said. "It includes the earlier custodial account and the later accounts held under both of Mrs. Tucker's names." I turned the first page. The oldest transfers were small. They grew over time. Training expenses appeared later. Rent support, medical gaps, household deposits, the recurring transfer after Ellen died. The bank printed 40 years of transfers. On the final page, a summary line gave the total, $286,000. Michelle read it upside down from across the table. "No," she said. I turned the report toward her. She pulled it closer. Her finger moved down the pages. She stopped at the year she married Greg, then continued. "This can't all be me. The report identifies transfers to your accounts," the manager said. Michelle looked at the total again. "Does this include what Dad paid directly?" "No. This report covers the identified transfers only." Greg took one page from the stack. "These are old." "There are current ones behind it," Michelle said. "I mean, most of this is history." She took the page back. "You told me Dad helped us when we were in trouble. He did. This is every year. Not every transfer was for us. They went to my accounts. You had expenses before we married, and after." Greg pushed the report away. "Past help doesn't solve tomorrow." "No," I said. "It proves tomorrow isn't something I owe you." He looked at me. "It proves an established pattern of giving, of support. Support I could stop." Michelle said, "You transferred all this?" "Over 40 years. I thought Mom's savings paid for my training. Some came from both of us." "And the rent after Greg and I married?" "Yes." "The furnace?" "Yes." "The medical deductible?" "Yes." She closed her eyes. I didn't list anything else. The total was enough. Greg stood. "So, you helped your daughter. Congratulations." Michelle looked up at him. "That's what you have to say? I'm saying he's using it now. He didn't bring the report until I said he stopped." "You were right, he did stop. He stopped the automatic transfer this week, and the supplier account. That isn't my utility bill. It pays the company that pays your utility bill." She stared at him. The distinction had finally reached her. Greg placed both palms on the table. "Charles, restore the card. The project draw repays the roof and covers this pickup. Then everyone walks away." "No, you'd rather lose Michelle over this?" "I'm not leaving her. You stopped paying. I stopped financing you." The branch manager gathered her authorization form. "The credit union can't resolve a supplier disagreement," she said. "Mr. Howell has declined the requested transfer." That was the last thing she did for us. She left the office and closed the door. I collected the transfer report. Michelle asked, "Can I have a copy?" "You can read this one. I want time. I'll bring it tomorrow." Greg laughed. "You think there'll be a tomorrow meeting? You told Front Range I'd reverse the authorization. I assumed you'd come to your senses. I haven't changed it." He slipped the charge card into his wallet. "Then I'll see you at breakfast. Pay another way. You'll be standing there while my order gets held. When everyone starts looking, you'll add me back." "No." Michelle said, "Greg, don't do that. The materials are staged. You heard him. He won't let me lose the project over a family argument." I stood. This isn't an argument anymore. I placed the report under my arm. Michelle remained seated. "Dad, wait." I stopped at the office door. She looked at the table. "I'm sorry I said you stopped paying everything. You believed it. I don't know what I believed. Read the report." She nodded. Greg opened the door past me. This changes nothing about Friday. It changes what Michelle knows. He walked into the lobby. Michelle followed more slowly. Outside, I handed her the report. Bring it tomorrow, I said. You're trusting me with it? Yes. Greg called from their car. Michelle. She held the papers against her chest. Why are you going to Front Range tomorrow? She asked me. I need materials for my own work. What time? Breakfast? She looked toward Greg. I'll bring it. I drove home. That night, no one called. Friday morning, I arrived at Front Range a little after 6:30. Coffee was already brewing near the contractor counter. The burritos sat in foil trays beside paper plates and hot sauce. I bought connectors, cable clamps, and a roll of wire for a service upgrade scheduled that afternoon. Dennis entered my purchaser number. The account approved immediately. He handed me the receipt. I stayed near the counter to check the wire length against my order sheet. By 7, the room had filled. Contractors stood in small groups, eating breakfast and discussing schedules. Greg entered with Michelle beside him. He carried no checkbook and no other card in his hand. Michelle held the transfer report inside a large envelope. Greg walked directly to the counter. I'm here for the Tucker order, he said. Dennis found the pickup ticket. Payment method? Account charge. Greg took the Front Range card from his wallet. Michelle stood a few feet behind him. She saw me, but didn't wave. Dennis scanned the card. The terminal made a short sound. He looked at his monitor. This purchaser is no longer authorized. Greg said, run it again. Dennis did. The same sound came from the terminal. Authorization removed, he said. There's a note that it was supposed to be restored. No. Greg turned toward me. Charles! Several contractors looked over. I stayed where I was. You said you'd come, Greg said. I said I needed materials. My order is already pulled. You can pay another way. You know I can't. That was the first time he admitted it in front of other contractors. Dennis placed the card on the counter. I need valid payment before release. Greg lowered his voice. Add me back. No. You're doing this publicly. You chose the time and place. One contractor near the coffee table looked down at his cup. Another moved aside to give us room. Greg picked up the card. Run it under Charles directly. Dennis said, the account holder would have to authorize this purchase. Greg looked at me again. I shook my head. Michelle came closer. Greg, call the owner. He's expecting delivery. Then tell him. Greg pulled out his phone and walked toward the entrance. We could hear parts of the conversation. The material is here. No, it's a supplier issue. Give me an hour. He turned away from the room. I can still get it to the site. The call ended. Greg stood with his phone against his leg. Michelle asked, what did he say? Greg didn't answer. She asked again. He gave the job to the other contractor, Greg said. No one at the counter spoke. The order remained behind the gate. The lumber was real. The pickup ticket was real. So was the rejection. Greg looked at the old charge card in his hand, then at the receipt Dennis had given me for my own approved purchase. Michelle held the envelope tighter. This was never about Dad paying our bills, she said. Greg's renovation job was gone, and my authorization stayed exactly where I had left it. Greg looked at her as if she had struck him. Whose side are you on? He asked. Michelle didn't answer. Dennis moved the pickup ticket away from the register. I can hold the order until noon, he said. After that, it goes back into stock. Greg turned on him. I said I need an hour. I heard you. You know me. I know the account holder removed your authorization. A contractor near the coffee table threw away his cup and left. Two others began discussing a lumber price with more attention than necessary. Greg put the card back into his wallet. This isn't finished, he said to me. The charge is. He walked out. Michelle remained beside the counter. Do you want a ride? I asked. I have my car. Are you all right to drive? She nodded. Then she handed me the envelope containing the transfer report. I read every page last night. I took it. I didn't sleep much, she said. Neither did I. I have to go home. All right. She followed Greg outside. I loaded my electrical materials and drove to the service upgrade. By noon, the staged order had returned to stock. I knew because Dennis called once, exactly as a courtesy. Greg didn't come back, he said. Did anyone pay? No? Then release it. That's what I'm doing. That ended the suppliers part. The renovation owner had already replaced Greg. The crew moved to other work. The roofing charge remained paid because I had protected my account before it became late. Greg still owed me. At 3 that afternoon, Michelle called. I told the court I won't serve as your conservator, she said. How? I went to the clerk's office during lunch. They gave me a form stating I don't consent to the appointment. Did you file it? Yes. Thank you. Greg is furious. Are you safe? Yes. He's angry, not violent. Do you need somewhere to stay? No. I waited. She said, I also gave them a written statement that I haven't seen you miss bills or fail to manage work. That matters. I should have said it before he filed. Yes. She became quiet. I didn't rescue her from the answer. Are you going to fight the petition? She asked. If he continues it. He says he might withdraw. That's his decision. I want you to ask him. No. Why? He filed it. He can withdraw it without me bargaining. She let out a long breath. What happens between you two now? I don't know. Will you talk to him? If he has something direct to say. He says he lost the East Side job because of you. He lost it because he couldn't pay for materials. I know. That was the first time she said it without adding anything. She asked, Can I call you later? Yes. For no reason? Yes. She didn't call later that day. I didn't expect her to. The electrical work took longer than planned because the existing service entrance had been installed poorly. I stayed until the homeowner had power again. When I returned home, it was after dark. Michelle's key remained in Ellen's bowl. I put mine beside it and carried the transfer report to the workshop. The total didn't feel different in my hands than any other stack of paper. It was proof of money already gone. It couldn't tell me whether each transfer had helped or delayed a harder decision. I locked it in the cabinet. The next morning, Greg arrived without calling. He backed his truck near the workshop. The enclosed equipment trailer that usually followed it was gone. He entered carrying an envelope. You sold the trailer, I said, and the tile saw. He placed the envelope on my bench. Inside was a check covering the roofing charge. What about the smaller purchases, I asked. I'm going through them. Michelle has the records. She's not doing my books anymore. When did that happen? Ask her. He looked around the workshop. You got what you wanted? No. My project is gone. Half the crew left. I sold equipment. What else do you want? Accurate repayment. That's all? That's what the check is for. He laughed without humor. You stood there and watched them reject me. You knew the card was revoked. I thought you'd act like a father. I did. To yourself. To Michelle. You humiliated her too. She learned the truth at the bank. You gave her a total designed to make her feel guilty. I authorized a record after she said I stopped supporting her. Because you did. I ended it. He stared at me. At least you admit it. I haven't hidden it. Greg took the front range card from his wallet. The plastic was worn along one edge. His signature was on the back. You want your precious card? It won't work. He picked up a pair of side cutters from my bench. Before I could answer, he cut through the magnetic strip. Then he cut it again through the printed account number. The pieces fell beside the check. There, he said. Now you can display it. I don't need a display. You need everyone to know you won. No. He pushed the card pieces apart with one finger. I'm withdrawing the petition. Good. Not because you're right. Your reason doesn't matter. It should. It doesn't change the filing. He looked toward the house. Michelle chose you when it counted. She chose not to support a false petition. Same thing. No. You think she'll become independent overnight? No. You think she won't ask you for money again? She might. And you'll say no. If she asks for money, yes. His face softened for 1 second. Not with regret, with exhaustion. I built my schedule around that account. You built it around my guarantee. I was going to fix it. When? He looked away. The same question had followed us through every conversation. He still had no date. Greg tapped the check. That settles the roof. When it clears. It will. He walked toward the door. What will you tell people about the petition? I asked. That I withdrew it. What about why you filed it? They can make up their own minds. You already helped them. He opened the door. I'm not calling every person I know and saying Charles Howell was right. I didn't ask for that. What do you want? Don't tell anyone I'm unable to work or manage money. He considered it. Fine. And correct the customer you contacted. You can call him. You caused it. Greg shook his head. I've paid enough? He left. That was the outcome of our relationship. He paid the roofing charge because he had to. He withdrew the petition because Michelle would no longer support it. He did not apologize. I deposited the check and waited for it to clear. The card pieces stayed on the workbench near the side cutters. 3 days later, the court sent notice that the petition had been withdrawn. No finding had been made about me. No one had gained control of anything. I filed the notice behind Greg's original petition. The professional damage took longer. My postponed customer didn't call immediately. The special order parts remained on my shelf, and the restocking charge was gone. Michelle corrected that part herself. She went to the customer's office and told him the petition had been tied to Greg's supplier dispute. She told him I had not missed work or lost control of my accounts. The customer called me the following morning. I owe you an apology, he said. You made a cautious decision. I made it based on gossip. Yes. Can we put the job back on your schedule? We can. I gave him a new date. I didn't charge him for the restocking fee, and I didn't pretend it hadn't cost me. Michelle came to the workshop later that week. She carried the plastic file box and her laptop. I looked at the box. I thought you stopped doing Greg's books. I did. Then why bring them? I'm separating my records. She placed 2 folders on the bench, household and personal income. The remaining business folders stayed inside the box. I changed my direct deposit, she said. My pay goes to my account now. Greg can't move it into the business. Does he know? Yes. How did he react? Badly. Did you change it anyway? Yes. She opened the household folder. I listed the mortgage, utilities, insurance, groceries, and car expenses. I know the actual due dates now. Good. I canceled 2 subscriptions and changed the phone plan. That should help. It doesn't fix everything. No. She sat on the stool where she had first read the roofing invoice. I accepted outside bookkeeping work. For whom? A small landscaping office. 2 evenings a week and Saturday mornings. You'll still have your regular job? Yes. That's a lot. I need the income. I also need work that has real invoices. She looked at Greg's business folders. I kept entering numbers he gave me because I thought being his wife meant believing him. Some of those reimbursements never happened. Did you ask him? Yes. What did he say? That I was choosing you again? What did you say? I told him the numbers don't have sides. That sounded like something Ellen might have said, but I kept that thought to myself. Michelle took a folded sheet from her purse. It was a list of people Greg had contacted about me. My postponed customer was crossed out. I'm correcting what I repeated, she said. What did you repeat? That you were forgetting bills, that you stopped paying without a reason, that we needed to monitor you. Who told you those things first? Greg. Who repeated them? I did. She folded the list again. I'm sorry. I waited. She looked at me directly. I'm sorry I took your mail after you told me not to. I'm sorry I let him use my name on that petition. I'm sorry I said you stopped paying our bills when I knew I moved the insurance money. Thank you for saying it. Do you forgive me? Not all at once. She nodded slowly. I understand. The supplier access won't return. I know. The automatic transfer won't return. I know. I won't pay the bills in that folder. I didn't bring them for that. What did you bring them for? I want you to show me how you decide what gets paid first. That was an action I could respond to. I pulled the second stool closer to the bench and handed her a pencil. We started with the mortgage. Michelle wrote the due date, minimum payment, and account balance on separate lines. Then we did insurance, electricity, water, phone, groceries, and the car. Which gets paid first? She asked. Which one keeps a roof over you? The mortgage. Then what keeps you able to work? The car. What can be reduced for 1 month? She looked at the list. Groceries, reduced, not skipped. She crossed out a number and wrote a smaller one. What about the phone? I asked. I already changed the plan. Good. The landscaping office pays every other Friday. I can use that for the second insurance payment. Will it arrive before the withdrawal? She checked the calendar. 2 days before. Then leave it alone when it arrives. I know. Knowing and doing are different. She looked at me. Are you going to say that every time? Probably not every time. She smiled a little and kept writing. We worked for nearly 2 hours. I didn't ask to see Greg's business accounts. She didn't ask me to pay anything. When we finished, she had a page showing what her regular income could cover and what depended on Greg. The second column was larger than she expected. He told me his income covered most of this, she said. Did it? Some months. What about the others? You covered the difference. Sometimes. She looked toward the gray cabinet. More than sometimes. Yes. She packed her folders into the plastic box. Before leaving, she stopped beside Ellen's note. I used to think you called because Mom reminded you about a bill, she said. Sometimes she did. What did you call about after she died? Usually something you needed. You could have called about yourself. I didn't think I had much to say. That's strange. Why? You always had something to say when you were fixing things. That was about the thing. She touched the edge of the yellow note. Maybe that was easier. It was. She left the note where it was. The roof repayment check cleared the following day. Greg sold more equipment over the next 2 weeks. The trailer and tile saw covered the roof charge. A compressor and scaffolding covered what he owed his crew and several smaller supplier purchases. He sent me one more check after Michelle compared his records with the invoices. There was no message in the envelope. I deposited it. His company didn't disappear. It became smaller. He worked alone on repair jobs and rented equipment when he needed it. Front Range would sell to him if he paid at purchase. He was never added back to my account. The Friday order was never charged to me. The automatic transfer never restarted either. That became important the first time Michelle ran short again. She called on a Tuesday evening. My car needs a battery, she said. Did it fail? It barely started after work. Did you have it tested? Yes. They said the battery is done. How much? She told me. Then she became quiet. I waited. Could you cover it until my Saturday bookkeeping payment? No. She inhaled slowly. I knew you'd say that. I can help replace it. The store installs them free. Then you don't need me for that? I guess not. Do you have enough in checking? If I move the grocery money? What happened Saturday? I put the grocery money back. Can you make it until then? Yes. All right. She didn't hang up. That was the test. Before, my refusal would have ended the call. This time, she stayed. How was your day? She asked. Long. What happened? I told her about a garage circuit where someone had driven a shelf screw through a cable. She asked whether the shelf caught fire. No. The breaker worked. So, you replaced the wire? Yes. She listened while I explained how I found the damaged section. Then she told me about a stack of receipts at the landscaping office. The owner had been paying for fuel from 3 different cards and wondering why the numbers never matched. What did you do? I asked. Made him choose one card. That's a start. I told him numbers don't have sides. I've heard that somewhere. She laughed. We spoke for another 10 minutes. She bought the battery herself. On Saturday, she put the grocery money back. I knew because she told me. I didn't check her account. I couldn't have checked it, even if I wanted to. A month passed before Greg and I spoke again. I saw him at Front Range on a weekday morning. He was buying boxes of screws and adhesive with a debit card. The payment approved. He noticed me near the electrical aisle. Charles, he said. Greg. That was all at first. He put his receipt in his pocket. Michelle says you're helping with her budget when she asks. She says you won't discuss my business. That's right. You discussed it plenty before. When it used my account. He looked toward the counter. I'm paying as I go now. I saw. It slows everything down, I imagine. He seemed to expect more. I didn't congratulate him. I didn't insult him either. He said, the petition was a mistake. It wasn't an apology. Yes, I said. I was under pressure. I know. You were too. Yes. He nodded and walked away. That was as close as he came to accepting responsibility. I didn't chase him for more. Michelle remained married to him. She also kept her paycheck separate. She stopped entering business expenses she couldn't match to an invoice or payment. Sometimes that caused arguments. She didn't bring those arguments to me as requests for money. She brought them as facts. Greg wants me to put the bookkeeping income into the business. What do you want? To keep it separate. Then what are you asking me? I'm not asking. I'm telling you. That was new. Another time, she came to my house with the household folder and said the mortgage would be short if Greg's repair customer paid late. I looked at the numbers. You can cover it from the insurance cushion. Then the cushion is gone. For now. I hate that. I know. She used the cushion. The customer paid 3 days later. Michelle replaced the money. I never opened my credit union application. The bank report stayed in the workshop cabinet. Michelle had made a copy for herself. She said she kept it with her personal records, not Greg's business files. One Sunday morning, the phone rang while I was drinking coffee. Did something break? I asked. No. Do you need a ride? No. Is a bill due? No. Then what happened? Nothing happened. I'm calling. I sat back in the kitchen chair. All right. What are you doing? Drinking coffee. Is it good? It's coffee. That means no. It means I made it. She told me she was cleaning the kitchen. Greg had gone to price a small bathroom repair. The weather had warmed enough to open the windows. We talked about ordinary things. A neighbor's dog kept getting into her flower bed. My work truck needed tires. The grocery store had stopped carrying the bread Ellen liked. No one asked for anything. After we hung up, I left my phone on the table. The following Sunday, she called again. Eventually, I stopped asking what was wrong. Our relationship didn't return to what it had been. That was probably good. She didn't get her house key back right away. I changed the mailbox lock and kept the only key on my ring. I didn't hide those decisions. 6 months after the supplier breakfast, I gave Michelle a new key to the side door. This is for visits, I said. Not mail. If you tell me to leave, I leave. Yes. She placed the key on her own ring. She didn't use it for several weeks. Then one Saturday, I heard one knock and the side door opened. Michelle came in carrying 2 cups of coffee. I brought the good kind, she said. Did something break? She gave me a look. I thought you stopped asking that. I'm adjusting. We drank coffee in the workshop. She sat on the stool and watched me replace a damaged cord on a work light. The cut pieces of Greg's charge card still lay in a shallow tray near the side cutters. I had meant to throw them away. They were plastic, so they stayed with the other small things I never decided where to put. Michelle saw them. He still blames you sometimes, she said. I know, I don't. I looked up. Not anymore, not for the job. What about the money? She wrapped both hands around her cup. I thought you were taking away something that belonged to me. It felt that way because I made it regular. You could have said no earlier? Yes. I could have asked what Greg was charging. Yes. She nodded. That was enough. I didn't need her to thank me for 40 years of transfers. I didn't want her to spend the rest of her life trying to repay gifts I had chosen to give. I also didn't want another payment to become the price of hearing her voice. We finished the coffee. Before leaving, she pointed to the old porch light parts on a shelf. Can that fixture be repaired? It has been repaired. Can it be repaired again? Probably. Should it be? No. She smiled. That's what I thought. 2 weeks later, she called from Front Range. I'm looking at porch lights, she said. What kind? Nothing expensive. That wasn't what I asked. She described 2 fixtures. One was too large for the mounting box. The other had a simple base and replaceable bulbs. Get the second one, I said. Will you install it? I'll teach you. There was a pause. Is that harder? For me or you? For me. No. All right, I'm buying it. If you've stayed with me this far, leave a comment, tap like, and subscribe if you want to hear another story like mine. Michelle arrived at my workshop that afternoon with the replacement porch light tucked beneath one arm. A white receipt stuck out from the top of the box. Paid in full, she said. I didn't ask. I know. I wanted to say it. She set the box on the floor and pulled the installation sheet from inside. Then she unfolded it across the workbench. Which tool do I need first? A screwdriver. Flat or Phillips? Look at the mounting screws. She studied the drawing, then checked the small hardware bag. Phillips. Good. I opened the tool drawer. She held out her hand without looking away from the instructions. Michelle placed her paid receipt beside Greg's cut charge card on my workbench, while I put a screwdriver into her open hand.